Okay, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash. I want to give double honor to my apostles and bishops of Great Millstone. Peace, salutations to the hopeful elect. All right, the least of the flock is drawing them out. All right, the least of the flock is drawing them out, and I'm gonna get that scripture. Okay, but I have an article right here from SputnikGlobe.com, and it says U.S. to strike Iran harder than ever if peace talks fall through. White House. This is 6 hours ago. Today's date is March 25th, 2026. Okay. It says, our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's abilities to terrorize the merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. Leavitt told reporters during a press brief. I don't have a specific timeline for you today, but it's obviously something the administration is working towards as quickly as we can. Leavitt said when asked about a time frame for oil tankers to start freely navigating the strait. And I don't know who this Leavitt person is. It's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. All right, so and we know that the U.S. These politicians, all right, the president himself, they're a bunch of liars, man, cappers. Okay, they're a bunch of liars, man. All right, and it's been reports that a lot more soldiers was killed or injured than being reported in this whole ongoing assault on Iran. Okay, and you still got Donald Trump popping shit, talking shit. Okay, rambling in his delusions, right? But Iran is not having none of it. Okay, why would they trust anything the U.S. is dishing out or offering when they have been constantly targeted and their leaders has been constantly been being wiped out, you know? And not to mention Iran is landed on them, man. All right, they closed down the Strait of Hormuz, they opened it up to their allies, but they closed it to, the rest of the world. So that's been leading to, higher gas prices at the pump. Okay. There's talks going on right now about an energy shortage or like a fuel lockdown, energy lockdown. Okay. Or fuel rationing. Okay. To basically combat this war. Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz and, but yeah, the U.S. wants a ceasefire. All right. But, no matter what, this thing is inevitable, man. Okay. This war is inevitable and, it's going to get worse and worse because that's what the prophecy said, man. Okay. And Iran is in that prophecy. All right. So let's go to the first scripture I said I was going to get. Right. Jeremiah 49, verse 20. This is therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua that he have taken against Edom, and his purposes that he have purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. All right. These are the descendants of Esau, you so-called white people. Okay. It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Right. And that's them small hats over there in the Holy Land. Okay. Small hat, big nose, gutter rat, gefilte fish eaters. All right. We all know who I'm talking about. All right. The ones on the planet Earth that wear the small hats. It's over there in the Holy Land, proclaiming to be God's chosen people, which they are not. Okay. So they're the least of the flock, and they're drawing their allies out. And their only real ally is America. Okay. And America is being drawn out. That's why they, on February 28th, you had Donald Trump attack, issue a missile launch on Iran. Okay? This is all biblical prophecy. You can read about it in Ezekiel 38. You can read about it in 2nd Ezra 15. All right? And we know ultimately, the way Esau operates is he wants to control all of the resources. He wants to control all of the resources owned and controlled by all these, by all the nations. Okay? They want to take over their resources and set up a central bank and have all their resources transacted through the dollar. And this has been the trend for a long time. Okay? And the state of Israel is a welfare state. They're heavily dependent on subsidies and funds from the U.S. And they've been trying to get the U.S. involved with this war for decades, man. So now they finally got what they wanted. But it's going to backfire, man. Because you see how Iran is coming, man. As a matter of fact, let me get that scripture. I believe it's in Joel, the 3rd chapter. I'm going to get right to the point. Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares and the swords, and your pruning hooks and the spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Right. So the weak is saying, I am strong. All right. Iran, which is considered a weaker nation, or a weaker country, they're now saying, I am strong. And why is that? Because they have nuclear weapons. And this is why Donald Trump was saying that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, because they could just do what they did to Venezuela. All right? And just take over. Okay? They could, just take over without the fear of a nuclear weapon being used. Okay? But Iran, they have strategically been planning for a U.S. invasion. So, the U.S. done got themselves into something that they thought was going to be, an easy 1, 2, 3 thing, but they don't realize that they're back. Iran, not only have they prepared, but they also have strong allies. China, Russia, all right, the BRICS nations. Okay, and this is why the U.S. is deploying troops left and right. Marines and the Air Force and your Army Reserves, all these people being deployed, man. All these different departments being deployed. Now they even talking about administering a draft in the future. The age is I forgot the age range. I think it's from age 18 to 42. So check that out. So yeah, man. We're in a time of war, and we're in a time of biblical prophecy. All right, the end of this rulership, the end of this kingdom, ruled by the nation of Edom. Edom's kingdom is coming to an end. Okay? The scriptures tell you, this power structure goes back to the EU and NATO, which, the US is allied with both parties. But even amongst that, Most High is severing that alliance. All right? Because for the most part, the U.S. hasn't been receiving aid from the EU allies, man. The EU's pretty much been staying neutral in this battle, which shows you, man, everybody's fed up with, America. All right, and this bigot mentality of being the enforcers of the world, man. Because by bigging up this country and doing and risking your life or your connections with other nations just to benefit one country, it's no profit in that for these other nations, and they're realizing that, man. All right. So let me get one more scripture and I'll close. Isaiah 48:22. There is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. Right. So all these talks of peace talks, peace treaties, ceasefires, all right, it's gonna come to naught. All right, and war is inevitable. All right, thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Bible. This place is going down. It's all according to biblical prophecy. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom.